Raffaele Sollecito knows what it's like behind bars, and now he's spinning that experience into a completely different kind of notoriety. It was only a year after Italy's highest court finally ruled that Raffaele Sollecito and Amanda Knox hadn't been involved in the killing of Meredith Kercher when Sollecito was approached with an interesting job offer to appear as a guest criminologist on the weekly TV show Il Giallo della Settimana, Mystery of the Week. In an interview with The Times ahead of the show's airing, Sollecito explained his reasoning for wanting to do the true crime series, saying, "I've been a victim of a miscarriage of justice. I know the faults of the justice system, what happens in jail, and what happens when the media twists the truth. The usual experts on these shows have seen things through a window. I have lived them." Paolo Liguori, the head of the network the show aired on, told Corriere della Sera that the reason Sollecito was brought on was because he was a better fit for the role than the quote-unquote beautiful girls with criminology diplomas that Italian TV tended to feature instead. He explained, Sollecito was imprisoned. He went through every level of the trial process, so he knows the justice system better than anyone. Sollecito's first episode covered the 2010 disappearance and killing of 15-year-old Sara Scazzi. Sollecito, in fact, had a lot of experience with the Italian courts. He and Knox weren't just tried once, they went through 3 separate trials before the Italian Supreme Court finally acquitted them in 2015, 2 years after their initial conviction in 2009, in which Knox and Sollecito were sentenced to 26 and 25 years respectively. The pair went through an appeal trial. That resulted in both convictions being overturned due to insufficient proof.
It seems to be a pretty never-ending saga of a nightmare.
Knox returned to the US, but Sollecito remained in Italy. And when the country's Court of Cassation retried and reconvicted the pair in 2014, Sollecito was again sentenced to 25 years in prison. All in all, they spent 7.5 years fighting for their freedom. After the final acquittal, Sollecito told the press, "It is time I will never be able to recoup. My mind and my soul will be marked for life, and the wound will never stop bleeding. It will never heal." But the trauma of the entire process stayed with him for years. In a 2022 interview for Paramount Plus's Who Killed Meredith Kercher, he said, 4 years in prison, 6 months of solitary confinement, and still today, I feel that bitterness, even though I moved on with my life.
I was free, I was joyful, but all of a sudden I was dramatically depressed again, because I didn't know how to start again.
Moving on from the experience has been incredibly difficult for Sollecito, especially when it comes to meeting new people. In 2018, he told the Mirror that even after leaving prison, he still felt cooped up in a kind of house arrest and explained, "Society still has a negative impression of me. I'm imprisoned by society that will not let me lead a normal life." According to Sollecito, in spite of having been fully acquitted, people continue to distrust him. He had difficulty building relationships, especially romantic ones. Several women he did attract, he said, were, quote, "charmed by my black halo." He also claimed that women were often afraid of him, or that when they weren't, some member of their family would be.
It's been a storm inside of our lives. I had also a lot of issues recapping with my life and make it in order.
But he refused to leave Italy for many years, telling the Mirror that he wouldn't run away because he had no reason to. He did finally move away from the country at some point, though. He currently resides in Tavira, Portugal, according to both his LinkedIn and Instagram profiles. When Sollecito met Knox, he was studying computer science at the University of Perugia. After their final acquittal, Sollecito continued on that path. He received a master's degree in information technology from Verona University and went into software engineering. According to his website, he works primarily with Amazon Web Services, designing cloud architectures. In 2016, The Telegraph reported that he had launched a startup called Memories, which provided an upkeep service for graves. He said he'd gotten the idea while behind bars. Memories expanded into a number of other applications, including social media, car rental, and online booking. In 2018, Sollecito released a new project along those lines, an app called Sun Tickets, which people can use to book beachside lounge areas.
I mean, my life is full with job. I'm a cloud solution architect, so I love working in IT.
Sollecito doesn't seem to be interested in slowing down when it comes to his career. He's actively pursued a number of certifications related to his field, and according to his website, he's passionate about sharing his knowledge and experiences through scientific articles. He currently works for Revo Cloud and cybersecurity. In 2012, with the help of journalist Andrew Gumbel, Sollecito published a memoir, Honor-Bound: My Journey to Hell and Back with Amanda Knox. At the time, it was the first book written by someone with personal ties to the case. Knox's own memoir wouldn't be released for another year. Much of the book is taken from Sollecito's diaries as well as letters he'd written while in prison. And while the details aren't especially juicy, they do help paint a picture of the injustices both he and Knox faced throughout their ordeal with the police and court system. Most importantly, Sollecito makes the claim that he believes police only charged him with murder in order to force him to cooperate with putting Knox away, something he refused to do. He wrote, "They had one overriding reason to arrest me, throw me into solitary confinement and threaten me with life imprisonment, and that was to pressure me into rolling over and testifying against Amanda."
But they were not satisfied, and they were pushing and aggressive, and they became the worst to the worst.
He also suggests that police actively framed him for the crime. At one point, he writes about the search conducted on his own apartment and alleges an officer pulled a knife from a kitchen drawer and asked another officer if it will do. Sollecito writes that the second officer replied, yes, it's great. Considering how entwined their lives became and the salacious headlines their relationship generated, you'd have thought Sollecito and Knox had been together for a decent amount of time prior to their arrests. But the truth is, they'd only known each other for about a week.
I was very in love with her. Even after a few days, I was very attached to her.
That relationship didn't last for pretty obvious reasons. He told Katie Couric in 2012, "When I look at her, I get stuck a little bit. I still had these psychological wounds of this nightmare that passed in prison. Her image brought up the image of the nightmare." Sollecito and Knox actually broke up prior to their first trial, although the pair have remained close. In between their acquittal and second conviction, Sollecito even took a trip to Seattle to visit her.
We are really good friends now.
In 2019, Sollecito seemed to finally catch some luck in love. He posted a photo to his Instagram with Andrea Mihaela Bortia, along with the caption, "With my bride-to-be." Unfortunately, that relationship too wasn't meant to last. The couple split sometime after, and Sollecito has since removed any trace of her from his social media. Much of Sollecito's time in the years since his acquittal has been spent speaking out about the case and what he feels is the unjust Italian legal system. Even in 2025, the effects of the original trial are still being felt. In January, the Italian court upheld a slander conviction against Knox. She had accused her former boss of killing Kircher after hours of interrogation and has tried numerous times to appeal the decision. Sollecito told News Nation that he wasn't surprised by the outcome. Sollecito has worked hard to rebuild his life and image.
It's nothing new to me. Actually, I don't trust the Italian juridical system.
In 2016, he told BBC Newsnight, "I'm a normal guy who passed through a nightmare. Now I'm different because of the nightmare I passed through, but I'm innocent."
People never understood the truth about this case. They never knew about us.
That same year, he recounted his story for Netflix's Amanda Knox. He's also been a featured guest on several podcasts in recent years, including Diary of a Metalhead, Bull Heroes podcast, and Pulp podcast. Most recently, he sat down with Planet B12 in September 2025 to talk about some of Italy's biggest trials, including revisiting the Kircher case. Sollecito and Knox met up once again in 2022, this time in Gubbio, Italy. That was the city they had planned to visit the day Kircher's body was found. After their trip, Sollecito told the Mirror, "It was bittersweet to go back, as we were supposed to go there in such different circumstances, but it was just nice for us to be able to talk about something that wasn't the case." While they don't often see each other in person, they do still interact on social media. In August 2025, Sollecito took a trip to Scotland for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and posted a series of photos from his trip to Instagram. One of them was taken at a Harry Potter display where Sollecito posed in the franchise's famous sorting hat. Knox asked in the comments which house he was sorted into, and after he told her Ravenclaw, she replied, "Of course." Later that month, the pair reunited once more, this time on the red carpet in New York City for the premiere of The Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox. Hulu's 8-part miniseries is a dramatized retelling of the crime based on Knox's memoir, Waiting to be Heard. Knox also serves as an executive producer. The show stars Grace Van Patten and Giuseppe De Domenico as Knox and Sollecito.
There is a body under the blankets, and they think it's Meredith.
If you want to follow along with Sollecito's latest, he's active on social media where he posts photos of his travels as well as clips from his various podcast appearances. He describes himself as a vegan yogi, and over on his website he says he loves Japanese culture, video games, yoga, rock music, and vintage and sports cars.